Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about, well, a couple of different things, but first focus on this sadness, the crestfallen nature of some people in the Trump movement because of the Epstein list not being released, despite Pam Bondi claiming it was on her desk for review. And if you remember back when you had the H-1B thing, Ellen was flipping out. Some people said, why did Trump appoint Kash Patel head of the FBI? And even at the time, some that were relatively right wing, they were going, oh no, Cash is on our side. He's going to defeat the deep state. And I was like, come on, bro. Cash Patel got this position because if you go back to 2020, he was the number one simp for Trump in the administration. In the DOD, he was willing to do things that were clearly illegal. And Chris Miller would say, this guy's a nutcase. We have to get rid of him. We have to cut off his access or he's going to create a disaster. But he gets that position. He's a podcaster. His girlfriend allegedly is a Care Bear spy, so it kind of adds up. And then as deputy, you have Dan Bongina, who is another guy who basically throws out bombs on the internet and gets his audience riled up. By the way, what is this phenotype? Burrito Italian, maybe? You guys let me know. The likelihood is, if the list even exists, it's too compromising to existing political figures. That's why it's not going to come out. Who knows if these individuals have even seen such a list, if they have access to it. And with Elon Musk being all outraged, but dude, you've had your Doge people in charge of government databases since January or so. If it's been digitized, you probably have ownership or you have hackers that can get it. So what does that mean? I did see a post, someone claimed now Putin is going to release it to get after Trump for not completely abandoning Ukraine. I was like, dude, Putin and Netanyahu are joined at the hip if you've paid attention. This goes back to Naftali Bennett not condemning Russia's attack on Ukraine in any forceful manner. I get the fact people are upset, but you should, instead of morality spiraling, we know these elites are degenerates. Focus on what is advancing that is productive, and a lot of it is, I'll talk about in a separate video. You have too many people, they're addicted to failure. It's like they get up in the morning, and if they're not gloom and doom, they're miserable. Okay, so laying the politics aside, I'll mention some of my recent adventures, and they can come in the most fundamental of environments, like when you're just walking down the streets. I do these strolls usually after dark, but from time to time, as in the other day, it was still light out, so you're going to bump into people inevitably. And I love to put this into practice where I'll say hello to folks just to see the response. So when I was cutting the grass earlier, it was interesting. You know how I talked about the grandma Pooja who was rude? Well, this fairly attractive brunette is jogging by. I did the same thing. I pulled the mower back so she's not hit by the clippings. She smiles, waves, and says, thank you. I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. Not every day you see it. So I continue on my walk. This is another time. And I see this redneck sitting on his front porch. I was like, hey, he ignores me. Like, fantastic. Keep walking. You see this couple coming my way. The woman, I don't know if she's Dominican or a Nutella Caucasian, but I said, hey, how's it going? She says nothing and rotates looking back at her husband like, this is on you. I was like, man, I really feel good about myself. So the chap appeared to be probably Care Bear. And I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, hey. So we can recognize each other as sort of a kinship of sorts. But I don't share that with the dogs, okay? No interest there. So that was that. And then further down, there was another lady rummaging through the trash of a house that was clearly not hers. Not sure what that was about. It reminded me when I was at Walmart. Or sorry, not Walmart. It was McDonald's. There was this elderly female came in, and she says to the girl, "Do you have your tea out here?" "No, we do it in the back." "Well, I never. How sweet is it?" "Well, it's pretty sweet." "Well, I need to come back there and make my own tea to do it the right way." I'm like, "No, you're not going to come back here." "Well, that's what I expect. That's what I want." It's like, "Well, we can do it for you." "No, let me talk to the manager." I was like, "Okay." Hey, I mean, it's getting crazy. I was almost hit by some Infinity SUV the other day just trying to change lanes. And I checked my side mirror. I looked, I could not see this guy coming at all. I really think he saw me trying to change and he just floored the freaking gas. But it was one of those things. You don't hear anything, you don't see nothing. I just swerved back in time. Otherwise, wouldn't be making this video right now. As to other events out and about, I was going to go to this Mexican place last week, but I missed the turn. And then trying to get back to the point where you could enter that particular parking lot was just too much of a hassle. So I said, all right, you've got IHOP. Mind you, IHOP, and I've said this at least 8 years ago, first time, that they need to shift their model. There's no way they're going to be profitable long term with all these wait staff. They should just have it, it's a conveyor belt, or maybe you come to like McDonald's, you come and pick up your tray. There's just no sense in having all these servers unless they're super busy on certain points. But I go sit down and I've been trying to count calories a bit more. Almost everything on the IHOP menu gets you to over 1,000. So I got the fluoridated unsweetened iced tea again. I went for the mozzarella sticks, which were pretty nasty, and then a soup, and that was a little bit less than the vast majority of their offerings. But my waitress, I thought she might have been Bengali. She could have passed as one. But I was going, yeah, I shouldn't ask that. A lot of people are offended if you associate them with South Asians. So I went with a safe. I said, hey, are you Colombian? She's like, no, I'm Salvadorian. But she hadn't been there in a long time, even though she had a somewhat ambiguous accent. We talked a little bit about that. And she was initially shy, but then she started giggling and opening up a little bit more. Not sure what to make of it. I may go back in a week or so, see if that's a potential prospect. Now, obviously, she is the type that if you were to get serious, she would become a gordita. But you need to stop persecuting me for a second because that's not what I'm about. I'm not here to create the next Nick Fuentes. That would be a disaster for the human race. I was looking at it, hey, long, silky black hair tied up in a bow, double D's, and by Central American standards, a pretty fat ass. So we just have to proceed as is tradition. As I depart IHOP, these double doors, but only one opens, and I see what I thought to be an Indian couple coming into the establishment. Then, by closer inspection, they appeared to be brother and sister. But the guy enters, Pooja follows, looks at me, gives a flirtatious smile, and moves on. You think that I'm making it up, and this is not even an area that is heavily pollinated with that demographic, but if you're bothering to go out and about, you're going to see South Asians everywhere. Something happened, whether it's the last 5, 10, 20 years, but it's there, so deal with it, I suppose. A little while later, I was in Target and I see these two Hojabis shopping, one of whom was fairly attractive, but there were these two Muslim cells positioned, basically watching every move they made, one of whom had the cuck prayer robes on. I don't know what it is. Whenever I see one in that attire, it's like automatically hit the deport button. It just is, it's viscerally disgusting to me. I don't know exactly how to break it down. There's some things ever since I have memories, since I was like 3 years old. If I see it, it doesn't matter. It's not a question you say, oh, because you were raised to hate. No, actually, my parents were the biggest MLK promoting shills possible. I remember, it's kind of sad when you think about it. They would do these interventions on African immigrant families. Like they knew this one lady from Botswana or another made up country. She had a little kid, and the husband would slap her around on the regular. And they tried to do this counseling and talk to him, this is not acceptable behavior. And he was like, this is the way we do it in my culture. Like, he was so matter of factual. He didn't give a dang. Like, yeah, that's how you treat women. So there was another family. They were a little bit more stable, but I think the oldest son wasn't really theirs. He was just attached to the family to get to the US. He was actually well behaved, though. The other two were these phenomenally violent, rude creatures. And then whenever they got caught, they'd be like, oh no, I'm a good boy, love Jesus. I'm not kidding you. This is crazy. So this is from a young age. I guess pattern recognition. I don't know what to tell you. With that being said, I did see a new Hojabi at the gym. And it's funny, she's a Hojabi, but lo and behold, she's got the Stanley Cup, and all the girls have those oversized headphones. I want to say Beats, but she kept trying to put them back on because with the hijab, they were falling off. They wouldn't secure on the ears. So I was like, maybe I should run game on that one if she's not married. It's always hard to tell. That might be rest in peace for Goldberg if the family find out, but at least I would have another adventure to bring to your attention. So yeah, that's been not much else of late to discuss. it's going to be an interesting future in the next couple of months in particular, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys are up to.